Hello, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, my name is Chris, and this is our latest installment of An Average Gamer's Guide to Total War Rome 2. Now, today, this is finally it, guys. Finally bringing you a guide for the internal political system in civil wars in Total War Rome 2. Wow, yes, it's finally happening. This has been requested of me since I started the channel, which, granted, is only like 10 days ago, but nonetheless, I've been searching since the very beginning to put out a guide like this. And I want to make sure I had everything solid and solidified and understood as much as I possibly could before I gave it to you guys. So here it is. So to get to your political factions, to get to the panels that deal with this, you go and click on your faction's logo, which is right here in the middle. And I'm playing Pontus, so it's this little sunflower palm tree thing. And you have your important characters here. Alright? So I am leader of the Mithridatic. I am a king, and that's what matters. And these are my important subjects, my important family members that are beneath. And these are the other families, which, as you noticed, are invisible because I killed all their important family members. They are a scattered group of sad rabble. So, yeah, don't mess with me when I'm king, alright? Anyways, and so as you can see here, there's some basic statistics I want to show you before I get into how everything works. This percentage number right here is your influence. Now I'll explain influence what it is later, and it is important how many of what it says down there. So it says I have 46%. Now that is the overall amount of influence I have over my faction, and I have 69 of 150 court nobles. Now those court nobles are going to be used as currency later, but I'll explain that in a second. The other families have their own, of course, and then if you could see it, if I hadn't killed them all again, this number here shows Gravitas. This little number here is listed for all my important characters. So, what is Gravitas, you might ask? Now, Gravitas is a stat that your family members can gain. Right? So this is statesmen, generals, admirals, anyone that's an important family member of yours. Now, generals and admirals gain Gravitas by completing missions, winning victories, or gaining political office, okay? Now, Gravitas slowly increases your influence, okay? So this statistic, the higher this statistic is here, this Gravitas statistic is, the more likely this character is going to help influence my overall family's influence, right? So the higher this number, the more they're going to help increase this and make this go up. I'm going to gain court nobles. I will gain chieftains if I'm a tribal faction. I will gain senators if I'm playing in a republic like Rome or Carthage. So that's how Gravitas plays into it, okay? Now, influence can be spent as currency. Now, that would be spending court nobles, your chieftains, or your senators. You spend their support to do certain things. Now they can be spent on things like securing a promotion. So right here, this is this is the only thing I'm able to do right now, is secure a promotion. So I can use my influence to promote this character to higher office. So the next level is whatever that is, and plus 10% wealth for all commerce buildings in whatever local province they are in. And it costs me -2 court nobles. So if you go over here, it says I have 69 court nobles. So if I secure this promotion, I will be at 67 court nobles. Okay, it's pretty simple. It's just like currency. Okay, and so again, Gravitas leads to the increase in influence. Your influence gains you court nobles, and then you spend your court nobles on certain things. So I could, if this was an option, I could spend them on assassinating. Granted, there's also monetary value in this one specifically, but again, I would spend it to try to gain some kind of political motivation. Okay, so there's other actions you can do, such as adoption. And spreading rumors and stuff like that, but those are a little bit more important, I believe, in republics, but we'll get to that later, and exactly what it is later. Alright, so that's how you interact with your important characters and the Senate and everything. That's just how you understand it. Now, I'm going to explain civil wars and how they are triggered, and then that will help you figure out how you plan your line of attack, okay? So like how you plan, how you want to position yourself, okay? Especially in republics, that's what matters, okay? Now, as a general overview for civil wars, this is something that applies to all civil wars. And then later on, there's some things that happen specifically for republics and some things that happen for all the other factions, so tribals and monarchies, okay? So, as a general overview of all civil wars, the civil war behaviors, how it starts out, depends on the size of your empire, okay? So, small empires will have individual generals or admirals rebel, okay? So if you're small enough, if you're like 1.5 provinces, and you have a civil war in your hands, you're not going to lose like half your territory to these new rebels. You will just have one general, or if it's since it's a whole family that rebels, if you have multiple families that are leading your generals or admirals or whatever, they will rebel. And I'll explain more about how that all works in a second. But they will rebel specifically, but they will not take territory with them, okay? But at a certain point, if your empire is large enough, they will not only take generals and create new armies, but they will also take entire provinces or regions, and they will rebel against you. So then, if you're large enough, they will start taking territory from you automatically. When you go into civil war, automatically, boom, there is going to be, if you're large enough, there will be certain territory that's taken away from you and declared as rebel territory, okay? Now, as a side note, okay, generals that leave to rebel do not take your armies with them. Those generals leave and create brand new armies, and your armies will be have a replacement general put in. Okay, so again, to make sure to specify, the general that you have leaving. So if I have, say, this is a different family member, and he leaves, all the men under this general's command will still be mine. All those units that I have built up will still be mine. But he will go and he will create a new army. Now, the other thing about that is that the army that he leaves, some of those men will leave with him. And so you will have basically attrition applied to them. So if you have a couple units of slingers and some heavy infantry, then you might have lost like 20 or 30 between each of those units, because those men were specifically loyal to that general and not to your family, your household, your dynasty, okay? So that is a general overview of how civil wars work. Doesn't matter what faction you play, okay? Now, specifically for republics, now this is the bigger deal. Specifically for republics, if your family becomes too powerful, it will cause a civil war, and the rebels will spawn away from the capital. Okay, so now you have all the power. You have the extreme power, so you control the capital essentially, and they will spawn. And again, this is depending on how big it is. Either just as generals, or if you're big enough, they will take territory away from the capital. They will not own the capital, and the only way they can stop you is by taking the capital away from you. Okay, so that is if you become too powerful in a republic. If your party or your family or your dynasty or whatever you want to call it in a republic becomes too low, then your faction will declare your family as rebels. So if your power is too low, if your influence becomes too low in a republic, then you will be considered enemies of the state, and the capital itself will become, or you will be considered rebels, and the capital itself will raise its own armies. This is something that we've seen plenty of screenshots of. Will raise its own armies and try to invade you and beat you back. At least that's how it's supposed to work. And again, I don't want to go into how things are working currently. I just want to explain the system as it's supposed to work. Okay. So if you're too weak in a republic, you'll be declared as rebels, and then you will have to fight for the capital. And if you are too powerful in a republic, then the other families will become rebels, and you will control the capital and some outlying territory, and you will have to take back the territory that they have now gained control of as rebels. Okay. Now, in other factions, in tribals and monarchies, specifically, if your power becomes too weak, that is the only time they will rebel against you. If I have 100% influence, if I gain this up to 100% influence, they will not get too mad and rebel against me. It is only if I'm too weak. If this gets too low, whatever that percentage is, which is one of the things that I don't know, is if, let's just say it triggers that automatically at 30%. Let's say I get to 29%, and then boom, they will challenge me for leadership of this faction. Okay, so then they will have taken over the capital, and it is my job to now try to regain the capital and regain power. Okay, that's if you are tribal or a monarchy. Okay, that's just how it works. Now, specifically now, again, for all the overlying rebel factions. So this doesn't matter how the Civil War plays out. It doesn't matter what kind of faction you chose and how the Civil War played out in the very beginning. All the rebel factions, once you are in a civil war or a rebellion, all rebel factions will have full diplomacy with every other faction in the campaign. But they will not listen to your faction's attempt at diplomacy. So it doesn't matter, like when you go into the diplomacy tab, you will see that they have their own, there will be a list. For me, it would be like Pontic rebels or something along those lines, and I can click on them and I can see who they're allying with and who they have non-aggression pacts with, and obviously they'll be at war with me, but I can't look to declare peace. The only thing I can do, I can't do anything through diplomacy. The only thing I can do is to conquer them, is to destroy them, is to bring them to heel. Okay? Now, the Civil War is only allowed to drag on for so long. Now, this is one of the other things that we're missing, is I don't know how long that is. There's, as far as I can tell, no time limit is specifically known. That if it's 20 turns, 30 turns, 50 turns, 100 turns, whatever, I don't know what it is, but it's only allowed to go on for so long. And upon the turn, once the turn begins of when the time limit is up, so you end the turn, time limit's up, the next turn begins, a conciliatory event takes place. Okay? Now, this event decides how everything's going to play out. So the terms of this are decided based on the balance of power when the conciliatory event takes place. Okay, so if I have all of the control except for one region for the rebels, then that power, that control, that balance of power will be in my favor. And if I only have one region and they have all of it, then it'll be in their favor. This is the other thing that I don't know. I don't know if that means I will just, if I'm the one that controls the majority of the power, if I just automatically assimilate them back in. And I don't know if I lose my campaign if I'm the one that has less power. If I don't have the balance of power in my favor when the conciliatory event happens, I don't know if that means that just all of a sudden, boom, I'm kicked out and I lose my campaign because I've been overthrown. I don't know that stuff. I just know that an event happens of some kind, and it's based on the balance of power. And I don't understand even if difficulty ranks into the balance of power or what. I just know that it says balance of power. So I'm assuming more territory, more troops, that kind of thing. Okay. Now, once a faction has gone to civil war, another one cannot happen for the rest of the campaign. Okay. I go through one civil war, I cannot go through another until I'm done with the campaign. Okay, and then I start a new campaign. In that new campaign, I can have another civil war. Okay, but even after you've had civil wars, factions can still have individual generals or admirals rebel, but they will not take territory with them. Okay, so this won't be a full-blown civil war where they actually take territory. This will be a civil war where, say, one of these guys has high ambition and he becomes too pompous enough and he rebels. He will start his own army and he'll rebel against me. He will try to conquer my territory or conquer me and put me down, and then you take over the country that way, take over the faction that way. Okay, but there is no more whole families, whole civil wars going on. It is just him making a brand new army. Okay, and that is everything I know about the internal political system and civil wars in Total War Rome 2. That is everything I know up until this point. It's currently September the 15th. I don't know if they're going to change things in patches. If this is a little out of date a couple months down the road, I have no idea. Take it with a grain of salt. But again, if you're watching it any time around that date, just, I'm hoping that this is relatively accurate. This is everything I have on it, okay? So I hope this helps you guys a lot. It took me a while to make sure that all this stuff was 100%. There's a lot of different theory going around on when times trigger, and it seems kind of random, so I just went with what I know and try to make sure it's crystal clear what I know for a fact and what I don't know for a fact. Go ahead, guys, and if you've gone through civil wars, you've gone through rebellions, feel free to comment. I want to use this as a whole resource for the community. If they're having issues, if you guys we can figure out when things tend to trigger and it's not just spontaneous random. Let's figure that out as a community. Let's help people out understand this game. Okay, so feel free to comment and tell your experiences down below. But again, I hope you guys enjoy this video. I hope this helped you out a bit. If you did, please like and subscribe. If you want to, favorite it so you don't forget it, just in case for the future. And share this with your friends. You know, I mean, yeah, I guess in a way it benefits me. Like, you know, if you don't want to for that reason, fine, whatever, do whatever you want. But share this with your friends, because a lot of people I know are struggling with this, and your friends might be struggling with it, and just don't bring it up. But this is, again, the most requested guide, so go ahead and share it with them. But you know, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.